Alright guys, so we are back with the Beatryce prophecy. We are at book the second, chapter 13. Jack Dory belonged to no one. He had come from the dark woods when he was very young. This, of course, was during a time of war. The boy had walked into the village alone and said his name to the first person he encountered. That person was Granny Speecg. She was sitting on a stool with her back against her hut and her ancient face turned up to the sun. Bees hummed, the grass was high, and the sky was very blue enough to break your heart in two. Granny Speecg had been in the world long enough that her own heart had been broken into any number of times, and she was tired of it. She intended in the little time that she had left to her to protect her heart. And so she kept her eyes closed to the beautiful blue and concentrated on the warmth of the sun, the hum of the bees. When the boy spoke to her, she did not move. "I am Jack Dory," the boy said. "What if you are?" said Granny Speecg without lowering her head or opening her eyes. "There are robbers in the woods," said Jack Dory. "Course there are," said Granny Speecg. "Dim is the dark woods, filled with robbers is the dark woods." We were going from High Flint to Throttletown," said Jack Dory. "My father did not want to fight in the war, and so we were going from High Flint to Throttletown to avoid the king's men." To this, Granny Speecg said nothing. That people went from place to place to another to avoid the wars and the king's men was not news to her, and it was not interesting. In fact, it made her weary to consider it, the constant need of people to run from one thing to another, thinking that they would avoid some sorrow when sorrow was waiting for them no matter where they went. Granny Speecg was done with such foolishness. She had given up all her illusions, and there was no way to be safe in this world. Granny Speecg knew it, and she was staying where she was. Let the sorrow come, let it go past her. "They stopped us," said Jack Dory, "and the biggest of them had a black beard and a bright knife, and he kept the knife between his teeth, and he growled when he spoke. He sounded like the devil himself." "So you say," said Granny Speecg. "He took everything from us. He took my mother's cloak. He took my father's hat." "That's robbers for you," said Granny Speecg, still with her eyes closed. "They rob." "But my father did not like it. He fought them, and they killed him. The man with the black beard killed my father." Granny Speecg felt a pinch in her heart. She wanted to forget the terrible things humans could do to one another. She wanted to sit in the sunshine and listen to the bees and forget. She did not want to care. Granny Speecg sighed. She opened her eyes and she lowered her head. She looked at the boy, Jack Dory. He was very small. His hair was dark. "And your mother?" she said, asking the question she did not want to ask. "She told me to run," said Jack Dory. "She shouted at me that I should run." "And you did run," said Granny Speecg. "I did, and I ran as fast as I have ever ran, and I am a very fast runner. I do not look behind me even when I heard her scream, and now I am lost. I do not know where I am, and I don't know where my mother is." And she screamed, and I did not turn back. "Come," said Granny Speecg. She held her hands. The boy stepped closer to her. Granny Speecg put her palms on either side of his face. "Say your name to me again," she said. "Jack Dory." Said Granny Speecg. "Say it again." "Jack Dory." "Tell me again who you are." "I am Jack Dory." The boy stood with the old woman in the bright sun under the blue sky. The bees hummed, and Granny Speecg made him say his name until he understood somewhere deep inside of him what she was trying to tell him. That his parents are gone, dead, and that he himself still lived. "I am Jack Dory," he said. Said Granny Speecg. "You are." Chapter 14. Granny Speecg called him Jack of the Door and Jack of the Wisp, and she called him her brave boy. She called him the light of her heart, the river of her soul, her beloved. She lived for 4 more years until Jack Dory was 12 years old, and then she died, and he stayed on in the hut alone. He cared for himself. He was fast, and because no one had a horse, someone who was fast was prized. He carried parcels and he carried messages. His memory was prodigious. Yes, prodigious. You could tell Jack Dory something once, and it was in his head word for word, just as you had said it to him. In a world where people could not read or write, his memory was a precious thing. In addition, he had a talent for mimicry. He could make the sound of a wolf calling for another wolf, or a raven announcing that it had found food. He could walk like the innkeeper's wife and laugh the same as the blacksmith laughed before the man had been called to war. The villagers asked him to tell the old stories because he could do the voices of all the characters, and it was like watching a play. It was as if they were hearing the story anew. Because of these talents, because he was a fleet of foot and a prodigious, it's a this is a word I cannot say, you guys. It means prodigy. Prodigious of, oh my gosh. Prodigious of memory and a great mimic, Jack Dory wanted for nothing. He was given food and warm clothes, and he belonged to no one and was loved by all. And yet at night he dreamed terrible dreams. He dreamed of the bearded robber who had killed his father and his mother, and the robber grinned, the knife held between his teeth. In his dreams Jack Dory heard his mother scream, and he woke sweating with one thought in his head: I want that knife. I will some day have that knife from between the robber's teeth. Chapter 15. In the same village as Jack Dory, not far from where the boy dreamed of a knife in revenge, there was a soldier of the king who was abed in the inn. The soldier was not a young man, nor was he old. He was terribly feverish, extremely unwell. In the depth of his sickness, at the height of his suffering, it happened that he was visited by an angel, a terrible angel, an angel with dark and ragged wings. The angel hovered at the foot of the soldier's bed and flapped her black wings. A foul odor rose from the feathers. I know who you are, said the soldier. I have seen you many times on the field of battle, and I know that I am now going to die. I want to die. I cannot bear to live any more. The angel opened her mouth and closed it again. Her teeth were hideous, crooked, snagged, and stained. What? Shouted the soldier. What is it that you want to say? You must, said the angel, and then she fell asleep, or fell silent. I must what? It must be written down, said the angel. If it is written, then there is a chance of forgiveness. Forgiveness, said the soldier. How could I ever be forgiven? See that it is written, said the angel, and then she flapped her malodorous wings and rose up and disappeared through the roof of the inn. And the soldier tried to forget the angel, tried to make himself believe that he had not only imagined her, but that he could not. And he got out from the bed and made his way down the dark, crooked, and extremely treacherous stairs of the inn. And at the bottom of the stairs, by the great stone fireplace, the soldier stood as straight as he was able and addressed the innkeeper's wife. He said, I am in need of a brother from the monastery. You are you? Said the innkeeper's wife. The angel says it must be written down, said the soldier, and the woman turned from tending the fire to staring at him. The angel says it? Aye, said the soldier. If it is written down, it will be forgiven. Ha! Said the innkeeper's wife. Forgiveness. She turned back to the fire. Send me a monk, said the soldier. I'm not sending you nothing, am I? But Jack Dory could take a message to them if you was to pay him. Find me Jack Dory, then, said the soldier. I am ready for this to end. I can bear it no more. It will all end soon enough, I reckon, said the innkeeper's wife. The soldier suddenly felt too weak to stand. I must sit, he said. Well, sit then, said the innkeeper's wife. There is no chair, said the soldier. But even as he voiced his protest, his legs buckled and he was on the floor. The innkeeper's wife went to the door, shouted, Jack Dory, I have a job for you. In no time at all, a young man appeared in the kitchen, and he had a great shock of dark hair, and he was smiling. This one, said the innkeeper's wife, this one sitting on the floor, this one says that he is receiving visits from angels, and he wants things written down. I do not want them written down, said the soldier. The angel wants them written down. Take him up to his room, said the innkeeper's wife. I can walk, said the soldier. He tried to stand, but could not. Should I carry you then, said the boy. You should not, said the soldier. You could not. Sure I can, said Jack Dory. He bent and gathered the man in his arms and made his way up the stairs. He held the soldier as if he weighed no more than a bag of turnips. The man wished suddenly that he were a bag of turnips, and that the way he would have no soul to account for, no sins for which to atone. Turnips were blameless, guilty of nothing but being turnips. No angel of death could bother to visit a turnip and speak of forgiveness and the need to write things down. I wish I were a turnip, said the soldier. Aye, now it's not as bad as that, said the soldier, or said the boy. He started to whistle a happy tune. I have been promised forgiveness, said the soldier. Forgiveness, said the boy. That's a nice promise. And then he went back to whistling. All right, guys, that was chapters 12, 13. Well, let me see. 13, 14, and 15.